removing them from their families, especially for a long period of time, I think can really be detrimental to their well-being and who they will be as citizens when they grow up.
The disconnection between a mom and her children, or a dad and his children, is traumatic. It has a huge impact on actually the child's developing brain.
When a mother and child who are healthily bonded to each other are separated, it works in the brain as much as a life or death situation.
The hopelessness, the powerlessness, the grief from losing a child it's like a living hell, and it's very hard to get out of that.
Right now that MCFD and other jurisdictions in Canada, provincial and federal, are failing to provide the supports that families need in order to function together as families.
Children who have had early developmental trauma and attachment to trauma, which means they've been removed from their families and the people that are their safety network, are often very reactive. They're children that are often diagnosed with ADHD. They can have developmental challenges and learning challenges. If we know about the trauma that happens with the disconnection of that relationship between parents and children, then we should have way more things in place that support that relationship. And right now, it's either you're 100% the primary caregiver or you're pretty much nothing. And that is not an appropriate system.
It's a system that's not working, and they have not, I don't think that they've really worked on, especially residential care, since like the policies and procedures are from 1998. So, and I really see that if you're making the decision to remove kids from the home, then you need to be really thinking about the well-being for the kids. And if that's the case, you should be thinking as a family.
People don't understand what actually happens in the system and the challenges that many people across our country face every single day.
Parents who are potentially compromised by addiction or mental health challenges, those are the people that should get way, way more support, not way more consequences for that.
A lot of parents are in fear of losing their children or in fear of a family breakdown.
Most of the families we're working with are in fight or flight, especially when you're being told a threat like your children are going to be removed if. You don't even hear the if, you hear my children are going to be removed, and then you're not able to have access to those areas of your brain that we're really requiring you.
I've seen a lot of families that are hurting. They came from history of abuse and neglect and trauma in their lives. They're running on autopilot. They're running on the way that they were raised.
Most of the parents that we work with have experienced lots of trauma as well, and that's usually where the protection concerns come from. The idea that a child would be removed from that is completely counterintuitive and leads to no restoration for a family.
I've seen a lot of families that are punished for their life experiences, and in a way that they're punished is by removing the children and putting them in foster care system.
And then they begin a court process. So they must make a report to the court. They have timelines, but they're lengthy.
You know, this court date, then this court date, then this court date, and it's these big, long periods of time where separation and trauma is happening for the family.
You remove people from the situations instead of solving the actual problem and getting to the core issues.
That's the challenge that I have with the Ministry of Children and Family Services, is that they're focused on child protection and they're not focused on the family model. And they were supposed to be moving towards the family model when I graduated from university 8-9 years ago. And I have yet to really see that happening.
That can't be a solution anymore. It can't be, you know, we're gonna rip away this child and put them in a foster care with strangers, people that don't know a thing about their lives.
I think we may have gone backwards rather than forwards.
We need to shift focus into looking at how do we rebuild these families? How do we heal them? And how do we move forward?
It's really about how do we respond in a human way.
They're not being treated like human beings that have had broken minds and broken souls from their lives.
The most important thing that a child can have in their development is a healthy relationship with their family, because everything else comes from that. And I think that's where we've gone wrong, is that we're infusing all this work into the development of the children and neglecting the fact that it's actually about supporting the mother.
If we would look at it more as the family as the core place to start, then I think that we wouldn't be continuing to face these issues over and over again.
I think with all the work that is going into truth and reconciliation and learning about what traditional parenting and Indigenous parenting looked like, I think the only answer to that is supporting parents in a more traditional model, which was how do we surround this mom and dad and children in so much family and love and encouragement.
Most importantly, parenting needs to be modeled, parenting needs to be celebrated. The children and the family need to feel that they are part of a community that cares about them, and that they're not this isolated situation.
That's where the healing comes, is when families have a safe place that they can open themselves and be vulnerable and be honest. And you know, if they're having a bad day, they have that liberty to say, I'm having a bad day, I'm struggling today, I can't do it, I need help.
I feel like that's a really important part that's missing, this sort of in-the-moment crisis support, what it would look like if we had more people to count on.
We need to look at the family as a whole. So that means providing an environment that is healthy and safe for that family to do the work that they need to do, to have the support that they need to have, to be educated, because a lot of the times they've never even had the opportunity to know what positive parenting looks like, because they've never even experienced it. They really need someone to be there with them when things start to erupt at home or challenges are starting to show up. And so you need someone there in the moment to help you move through it before you can create a habit out of it.
These families need a hand up. They need help on rebuilding their lives.
Well, I see a foster family as giving a family whatever it is that they need to have a relationship with their children.
There is a version of foster care that includes the entire family.
Instead of removing a child from the home, you take the whole family and place them in a home and surround them with the support that they need, and teach them how to live a functional life.
The alternative is intense wraparound, where the family remains in their own home and the services are there with them.
Support comes into the home that helps them focus on emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual rehabilitation. It's hands-on support.
Prevention, early intervention, education, giving families who are struggling the tools that they need to maintain themselves as a family and care for their children, rather than our current system most of the time, which is to completely separate the children from the parents.
Really the solution is, how do we put a whole bunch more people in this family that love the family and want to keep them together? It's all really very simple answers, and it's all very human, and it's the opposite of what the mothers that I'm working with are getting.
We are searchlights we can see in the dark. We are rockets pointed up at the stars.
child, that day becomes the day the family was separated forever in their histories. That day is going to be huge.
What about us? What about all the times you said you were the answer?
What we're trying to approach here is different than the way that things have been done. Kids have been removed and parents are asked to work on their parenting skills and their own personal trauma separately from their children. And we're looking at them working on it together as a family.
Currently in my situation, my children are in foster care and they've experienced being bounced around from home to home. They've had a lot of trauma endure in the time that they've been in foster care and in the time of their whole lives. And they need a lot of healing. I need a lot of healing. Our family needs healing. And we are having a really hard time doing that healing away from each other. And our next earliest court date is possibly, I don't have a court date yet, but it's possibly February 2019. And that terrifies me, knowing that my children are going to be separated for that long. I have 4 children. My 2 older children are in a separate home from my baby that's 13 months, and they have a 2-year-old sister. And so not only am I separated, or my children separated from their parents, they're also separated from their siblings.
And this is the problem that we continue to face with the system, the way that the system is today. It's very slow moving in the changes that it knows it needs to have, and therefore we're proposing to start this project now, to start administering this model for Alicia's family, because time is of essence and we need to be the change that we want to see. We can't wait around for it. Kids can't wait around for it. They're just getting re-traumatized the longer that this continues to go on. And if it continues to go on the way that the system deals with these types of family situations, we're just going to see another generation going through the same thing over and over and over again. It's time to stop. It's time to make the changes that we scientifically know need to happen. And we have a family who's willing to do the work and wants to be together. Why are we not doing this now? And that's the question that I had to ask myself, and I've really had to make the decision that it needs to happen now. And so how can that happen? Well, that needs to happen through contributions from the community. And what contributions look like are, we want you to be involved. We want to hear your ideas. We want to hear the gifts that you can provide for this model for it to be successful. Of course, this type of project also needs financial support, and that can look, of course, as money, but it can also look like a vacant home that you might have, a rental that you could provide. Also, a physical support can look like volunteering and being a part of creating the beginning of this home, because we're at that stage right now where we're wanting to administer this model and put it into place, but we're at the place where we need to create it, and we need to create the system to make it work.
What about us? What about all the broken happy ever afters? What about us? What about all the plans that ended in disaster? What about love? What about trust? What about us? We have problems
nothing's going to change unless we change our entire perspective on how we take care of families.
Enough is enough. Oh, what about us? What about all the times you said you were the answers? What about us? What about all the broken happy ever afters?
Counseling doesn't happen in an office. Counseling happens during life situations.
What about love? What about trust? What about us?
We're trying to put out a fire, but we're not looking at the way that it's getting started.
And people that have intense trauma need intense healing.
And there's ways to heal it.